Please join me in 3 recitations. 南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛. Please release your palms. Today we will be looking at a few articles. And the first one we'll look at is called Chanting Buddha's Name and Changing Your Fate. And the second one we'll be looking at is Myriad of Good Roots and Merits. And if time permits, we'll look at one more very short one called Nianfo is the Greatest Offering. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first one called Chanting Buddha's Name and Changing Your Fate. This is taken from the article written by Master Jingtung. It comes from a set of question and answers. The question that Lotus Friends asked is, I have been chanting the Buddha's name for so long. Why hasn't my fortune changed? Why am I still so helpless? Those who helpless, not hopeless. Hey, it's like lack of luck. Things are not going my way, right? So here is the answer to the question. Those who believe in cause and effect should know that fortune is not accidental. It is not possible to change one's luck fortuitously. After reciting the Buddha's name 3 times, one expects Amitabha Buddha to act like the gods of other faith, to free them from bad luck and shower them with blessings. There is no such thing. A person's destiny depends on the causes and effects created in his previous lives. Causality is pivotal to the human mind. When a thought arises, the cause is planted and eventually leads to its consequence, like a seed with proper conditions leading to a fruit-bearing tree. As we are enduring the effects of past causes, their consequences create new karmic causes, which will guide the fate of our future. Whether it be a life of good fortune and a worthy endeavor, or a life full of misfortune and transgressions, poverty and famine and illness. The magnitude and the timing of each turn vary according to the strength of the karmic force and the causal mind. Stronger thoughts and deeds result in stronger causes and consequences, but they have been planted in previous lives. And few people today possess the kind of power great enough to influence or alter their predetermined fates. Besides, nowadays, people are generally weak in mental strength, scattered and dazed, uncertain of their destiny, like aquatic plants floating on water. Therefore, the general framework and tone of life for the vast majority of people will not change much. It only fluctuates within their predetermined range of pain and pleasure. After all, the 6 characters are the source of all blessings. Thus, although people who recite the Buddha's name aim to be reborn in the Pure Land and do not seek worldly blessings, they are naturally blessed with worldly fortune. The more one wants to be emancipated from the samsara, the more worldly blessings one will attain, because the revulsion of the Saha world and aspiration to be born in the land of ultimate bliss match the Buddha's heart, which produces an immediate result. This is the only effective way to change the fate of all sentient beings. After understanding the above principles, even though you recite the Buddha's name without realizing the change of fate, you can examine your own mind. First, firmly believe that the cycle of cause and effect is the iron law of the entire universe. Is our fate determined by our past actions? Since we believe in cause and effect, we should be at ease and accept the retribution and not expect too much fortune like that of ordinary people. Should we should we recite the Buddha's name for worldly blessings or for the rebirth in the land of ultimate bliss? Worldly blessing is not as good as rebirth in the land of ultimate bliss. Reciting the Buddha's name for worldly blessings is like giving up tens of billions of dollars for only a lollipop. Isn't that a loss? Third, hasn't the time we've recited the Buddha's name been too short? Are you performing your daily recitation earnestly or just coping? You should know that a river forms because of the accumulation of water. Merits are made because of good deeds. Without merit and virtue, fate cannot change. In addition, whether your fate has altered cannot be determined by intuitive feelings. After all, feelings are just emotions, not real or permanent. So taking a step back, even if from an objective point of view, it is true that your situation is indeed getting worse, who is to deny categorically that had it not been for reciting the Buddha, your situation would have gotten even worse? Moreover, whether the fate of life has changed or not, will it even change? You don't need to ask people. You can see it for yourself. As the saying goes, character is destiny, which is quite true. The mode of one's mind develops into habits, and the accumulation of habits becomes the character. Whatever kind of character you have, you will naturally have that kind of destiny. In addition to changing our future reincarnation, reciting Buddha's name can also change our lives in the present. This real life change is a change to one's character. Just like pruning a plant, changing one's current behavior is only a temporary measure, not a long-term method. Only by changing the genes can the essential changes occur. After chanting the Buddha's name for a long time, the three karmic offenses, body, speech, and mind, will be self-diminished. Everything trends towards the middle way. The impetuous become quiet. The acerbic become kind. The selfish become generous. And distracting thoughts become mellowed. And the mind becomes clear. Vulgar becomes elegant. Shallow becomes deep. All of these happen unconsciously and imperceptibly, exerting a subtle influence on one's character or thinking, like a child growing up to be an adult without feeling it. When the genes of life change, fate must change. You can observe whether there is a change in your character before and after reciting the Buddha's name. If there is, and yet your fate remains the same, I will not believe it. This is the end of this article titled Chanting Buddha's Name and Changing Your Fate. It is very practical because this is a very commonly asked question by Lotus friends. As we still have time, we'll look at one more article. The title of this article is "To Hold Fast to Amitabha's Name is to Have a Myriad of Good Roots and Merits." Listening to one chanting of Nama Amitofo does not entail hearing the name of Amitofo. No, this is not the meaning of the phrase sentient beings of the 10 directions hearing the name of the Buddha at the beginning of the 18th vow. Rather, it is about listening to a good Buddhist teacher, interpreting the connotation of Amitabha Buddha's 18th vow of delivering sentient beings of the 10 directions, the ins and outs, the cause and effect, and thus keeping faith wholeheartedly in Amitabha Buddha. Keeping faith wholeheartedly means believing in the salvation of Amitabha Buddha and aspiring to rebirth in the land of ultimate bliss, and thereafter reciting the name solely and constantly. It is also called holding fast to the name of Amitofo firmly, desiring rebirth to the Buddha, resolutely and never faltering. When one keeps faith wholeheartedly in Amitabha Buddha's deliverance, one naturally recites the name of Amitabha Buddha. Therefore, the so-called having a myriad of good roots of potentiality and merits is hearing Amitabha Buddha and holding fast to the name. It is the same as saying that although rebirth to the land of ultimate bliss requires many good roots and merits, Amitabha Buddha has already prepared them for us. All we need to do is to have faith and recite his name, and we will have all the good roots and merits necessary to be born in his land. So, from this point of view, the many good roots and merits are not accumulated by us, but by Amitabha Buddha. And we only need to recite his name and wish to be born in his Pure Land. Therefore, Master Lian Qi said, to chant the name of Amitabha Buddha is the best of all goodness and the blessing of all blessings. Master Yi also explained, as long as one has faith in Amitabha Buddha, aspires to be born in his land, and holds the name firmly, then each chant is full of good roots and merits. All we have to do is recite Amitabha Buddha's name exclusively. The passage rebirth in that land cannot be achieved with only a few causal good roots and merits was translated from the Sanskrit text. The Amitabha Sutra by Kumarajiva of the Yao Qin dynasty. Recently, another English translation of the Sanskrit text in 1894 by F. Max Muller was discovered. Let us pay special attention to his translation of the text in English. Beings are not born in that Buddha country of the Tathagata Amitabha as a reward and result of good work performed in this present life. This simply says that the way to be born in the land of ultimate bliss is to rely not on our meritorious work in this life, but on the virtues and merits of Amitabha Buddha. The translation of Kumarajiva, the causal good roots of potentiality and merits in the Sanskrit text, is expressed by only two words in Muller's work. The two words are good work. It does not mean that we need not do any good work other than reciting Amitabha and desiring rebirth. In fact, we should do meritorious work whenever we can. For instance, we have the inherent duties to observe filial piety to our parents and to serve our teachers. Also, we must practice the 6 paramitas as much as we can. The only thing to keep in mind is that rebirth to the land of ultimate bliss relies on the virtues and merits of Amitabha Buddha. Because however much good work we do in life, that work cannot be considered to be enough virtuous merits or good roots alone. Only Amitabha Buddha's virtues and merits are the most extraordinary and inconceivable. The land of ultimate bliss that we aspire to be reborn into is accomplished by the purest and truest Buddha's virtues and merits. It is the nirvana realm of neither arise nor perish, and no being, no non-being. So how could rebirth be possible for ordinary mortals, full of greed, wrath, and ignorance? Because cause and effect do not coincide and do not correspond. Only by Amitabha Buddha's selfless and pure virtue and merit can we enter the land of ultimate bliss. I will repeat this sentence. Only by Amitabha Buddha's selfless and pure virtue and merit can we enter the land of ultimate bliss. That's why the Amitabha Sutra says that after hearing of Amitabha Buddha, we hold fast to his name. Why? When Amitabha Buddha builds up the land of ultimate bliss, he must complete the merits for our rebirth and then dedicate it to us. So the Sutra of the Infinite Life says, should I not become a great benefactor in lives to come for immeasurable helpers, to universally relieve the suffering of impoverishment, may I not attain perfect enlightenment? We ordinary mortals in the mundane world are suffering all sorts of immiseration and sorrow, and still, after death, we transmigrate to evil realms to suffer even worse anguish and pain. Such woe is unspeakable. Therefore, Amitabha Buddha pledges to be a great benefactor, to equally and indiscriminately save the poor and the afflicted everywhere, which is why the Buddha's other title is the Master of all great benefactors. We can share Amitabha Buddha's immeasurable merits if we recite his name, and we will be reborn in his land of ultimate bliss. That is the power of Amitabha Buddha, the power of his compassionate vow. There are 3 other passages in the Sutra of the Infinite Life regarding Amitabha Buddha's vow and his compassionate deliverance, which read, I shall open and widely distribute the Dharma treasure house for many, enabling sentient beings to acquire merits and virtues. Without being asked, he offers beings the way to liberation. It is for us that Amitabha Buddha opens the Dharma storehouse and endows us with his merits and virtues, so we can be free from the Saha world and be born in the land of ultimate bliss to be Buddhas. Therefore, the Dharma path of our Pure Land Buddhism is about Amitabha's deliverance, our faith in his deliverance, and reciting his name constantly and exclusively. This is all the time we have today, and so I will stop here. Would you please join palms and do 3 recitations with me? Namo Ami Tofo. Namo Ami Tofo. Namo Ami Tofo. You may release your palms. Let us now continue our recitation.